The 5 mind-blowing secrets to weight loss are all paradoxes. These self-contradictory truths that mess with you because they run opposite to what you'd expect would cause success. The 5 paradoxes I'll share are ones I wish someone had told me when I was losing weight. Because if you truly get these paradoxes, I guarantee they're going to transform your weight loss success like no diet or workout plan ever will. Can you spot the first paradox in this upcoming bit? I messed up again. Why bother? I'm just gonna fail again. If you don't try, you remain where you're at. Nothing changes. But it is true that the more you try, the more you will fail. And herein lies the first paradox. The more you fail, the more likely you are to succeed. Now, you may be thinking, but Richa, I have failed so many times and I'm nowhere near success. Let me ask you, what is so many times? I personally, even today, don't meet my targets for longer than 1 to 1.5 months in a row, and my time staying on track was way worse when I started. I'd estimate I've tried over 100 times in my entire journey. We seem to have this expectation that we'll just set out losing weight and get to our goal in one shot. No hiccups, no regressions, just straight linear progress. And then when we inevitably don't see this kind of progress, we think others losing weight on social media are seeing this kind of progress. When the truth is that no one has ever accomplished anything big on their first try or even their 10th try. So how many is actually many? Well, Einstein wrote 319 papers, out of which only 4 got acclaim. That's a success rate of 1%. Edison had it worse. He made 1,000 attempts before the final attempt that lit the electric bulb, a success rate of 0.1%. So what stops us from keeping on trying? And why are others able to keep on trying until they succeed? The problem happens when you attribute failing to yourself instead of your methods. For example, you say, I am a failure instead of that thing I tried failed. It might sound subtle, but the implications are huge, because an I am followed by a negative statement is a direct attack on your amygdala, which is where your identity lives. When something attacks your identity, your mind shrinks from the attack and wants to avoid it in the future. And the easiest way? Don't try things that attack your identity. Simple. This is why one of the first things we teach inside our Badass Body Boss program is to track what we call your shoulder devil dialogues. This is a journal of the dialogue that stops you from trying. Like, so what, you lost 10 pounds, you're still fat, so why bother? This is boring. Where's the fun? No matter how well you do your habits, it just won't work, so you may as well eat what's in front of you. You don't deserve to lose weight. Life is too hard right now to try. And the funny thing is, when you start actually writing these down, you'll notice there's a finite short list that keeps running through your mind. It's not limitless. I urge you to then ask for each dialogue, is this factually true? Not subjectively or how you feel, but rather if you asked an objective third person, would they say it's true? And if not, then write down why not. Read this list every time your shoulder devil pops up. Okay, so let's say this shifts your mindset toward being more willing to try and fail, because that's how you'll eventually succeed. But what do you focus on first? Here's a bit that holds the answer. Can you guess it? I'm still not losing weight despite doing HIIT 5 times a week and running 2 times a week. I guess I could track every bite I eat? Nah. I'll just run 4 times a week. Focusing on things that are not your bottleneck because they are easier for you to do and make you feel better about ignoring the things that are your bottleneck is basically you running in a hamster wheel and wondering why you never get closer to your goal. Because here comes the second paradox. The more something scares you, the longer you should sit with it. This could be not just exercise versus nutrition, but your mental associations of foods. For example, we had a student inside Badass Body Boss who kept eating less before his evening socials with his team, during which he'd drink lots of alcohol. The problem here isn't calories or macros or whatever. The problem was his perceived inability to connect with coworkers unless he was drinking. Facing this fact brought about intense shame and insecurity, and so it was easier for him to keep playing with calorie math. Why do we do stuff like this? Because changing your relationship with food or setting boundaries with people is hard. This goes beyond just what to eat and how to move. This is tough life stuff. Even people who aren't losing weight are struggling with this. And now you gotta lose weight and deal with all this stuff? That's a lot. But the thing is, when you don't sit with your true bottleneck problems, you can't see what's really stopping your results. So inevitably, you do the wrong things and feel, I'm doing HIIT 7 times a week and running 4 times a week. Why am I stuck? Instead, do what we teach inside Badass Body Boss. Whenever you derail from your plan, like eating more than you intended, for example, write down what was your self-talk before, during, and after it. Just collect this data. You don't need to do anything about it for now. As you sit with these uncomfortable events, you'll start to see reality, your true bottlenecks, and they will prevent you from falling into the trap trap of continuing to do the easier but unnecessary things because you will see repeatedly what's actually stopping you from getting results. So now let's say you have this list of self-talks. Do you start addressing all of them? How do you prioritize? To answer that, it's bit time again. Try to guess the paradox. Okay, I keep going over my calories. Time for a plan. I can plan and cook every meal for this week so I stay precisely within 400 calories and do intermittent fasting by skipping breakfast and lock my candy inside a bulletproof safe so I'm not tempted and buy smaller plates. Or I could just get more sleep. Huh. Having coached hundreds of students, I can say that we, the people losing weight, are prone to doing way too much and then feeling paranoid that it's not enough. This irony is captured in our third paradox. Minority of things produce majority of results. This fact is seen not just in weight loss, but literally every aspect of nature and the world. It's called the 80-20 rule. This rule was discovered by Vilfredo Pareto, who noticed that 20% of his plants produced 80% of his peas. Then he noticed that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of people. And this has been found to be true in all sorts of areas. 20% of drivers cause 80% of all traffic accidents. 80% of pollution originates from 20% of factories, and so on and so forth. What this means for you is that 20% of your efforts will produce 80% of your results. And if you were to map it, this is the graph it would look like. You want to stop at the green spot. The problem is most people keep going until they're at 80% or nearly 100% of effort. But look at how little the results increase because of that massive increase in effort. It's tiny. So of course, when you think, why am I seeing so little results for so much effort? This is why. Instead, do what we teach inside Badass Body Boss. Go back to the list of uncomfortable bottlenecks you found and identify your keystone bottleneck. That is, the bottleneck which if you address would cause many other bottlenecks to vanish. It's like in that Indiana Jones movie where he faces an adversary who has all these cool moves and tricks. Now, Indiana could counter every move and attack one by one, but that would take a lot of time and effort. Instead, he just pulls out his gun and shoots the adversary. All those face-to-face combat efforts vanished in one go. Poof. Similarly, in the bit earlier, my keystone bottleneck was lack of proper sleep. If I sleep well, I notice I'm able to stick to my plan better. Instead of creating an extensive list of strategies to counter all 5 craving episodes I suffer in a day, I render all of them moot by this one simple strategy. Okay, so let's say you pick your one keystone bottleneck to address. Then at what intensity should you address it? Like, should I aim for 8 hours of sleep if I'm sleeping 4 hours right now? Should I aim for the ideal? Here comes a bit again with the answer. Time to guess the fourth paradox. I'm doing HIIT 6 times a week to lose weight, but it also makes me super hungry. And then I go over my calories. How am I supposed to lose weight? Fun fact, my co-coach at Badass Body Boss, Lucy, actually decreases the amount of exercise she does when she's trying to lose fat. Why? Because of the fourth paradox. The harder you force progress, the less likely you are to make progress. This is because your body is not just sitting there, taking everything you do to it. Your body's goal is to prevent fat loss, because before this modern era, losing fat was a bad thing because you never knew when your next meal would be. And those fat stores are what it would use during those times. And so the harder you push your body to lose those precious fat stores, the more it fights back. Think of your body like pottery. If you push really hard, the clay gets misshapen. But if you're gentle, you can coax it exactly into the shape you want. And so what we teach inside the Badass Body Boss program is 2 things on this front. Set your intensity to be just outside what you can easily achieve. For example, if I'm sleeping 4 hours a night, then aim for 5 hours. And second, don't aim for 100% on this goal. Aim instead for 80% rolling average completion rate. If you're able to hit 80% for a solid month, you can then move on to the next bottleneck problem to tackle. Now, you may be wondering, but wouldn't this cause weight loss to take forever? And herein comes the 5th paradox. Guess it from this bit. You must have noticed that when you go really hard, you either can't sustain the pace, or even if you can keep it up, your weight loss stalls, even as you continue doing the same things. This is the faster red car. It goes fast only to suddenly stop and or regress, while the green car keeps going at its slower but steady pace. It slows down a little at points when tactics need to change, but then it returns to its previous pace until it's far ahead of the red car. And this is the 5th paradox. The slower you go, the faster you progress. The reason for this is not only the physiological one I explained in the 4th paradox section, but also psychological. You need to slow down to be able to hear your own self-talk and take the time to address it. For example, have you ever taken a walk through the same roads you usually drive? I bet you noticed a lot more stuff when walking. That small cafe you always whiz by, or the hidden nook of shops. You're able to notice them because walking is slower. This same happens when you aren't hurtling at 100 miles per hour on your weight loss journey. You actually notice your shoulder devil dialogues and can take the time to address them because those are your actual barriers to practicing the nutrition and exercise habits you probably already know. This is why inside Badass Body Boss, we are big on tracking not just physical progress, but also physiological and psychological progress. Because if any one of them lags behind, you can bet that just like the red car, you will regress. And if you're still struggling with slowing down, ask yourself, why do I have this need to go fast? One of my students inside Badass Body Boss shared this incredibly insightful post. She says that in the past, when she wanted to go fast, it was because she didn't trust that she could actually get to her goal. So she wanted a peak just to make herself believe. But now inside Badass Body Boss, she feels it's inevitable. So she feels no hurry because she knows she will get there. If you too want this kind of confidence, check out the free sneak peek into my Badass Body Boss program in the description below. You can also check out this video on another contradictory truth, which is about how good foods are actually sabotaging your weight loss. But remember, you can do it.